What day of the week is it? Thursday, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I had to think about what day it was. We are so excited that you guys are here. Steve and I have got a great conversation ahead for you to really explode your database. My name is Tammi Juengst. I am a co-coach of Never Ending Referrals with Steve. I am also the director of Bold and a KWU Master Faculty. And Steve, tell them a little bit about you.
Oh man, so ditto in many cases. Part of our Keller Williams University Master Faculty Bold Coach. Operate a couple of market centers in the Austin suburbs. Man, what else? You got a great book, Rescue Dogs in Real Estate. Check it out on Amazon. And of course, Tammi and I have this passion around this thing called Never Ending Referrals, and how we build relationship-based businesses. And today is really about that. And it's three core conversations that are simple conversations to have right now. And I think maybe Tammi more needed than ever right now with, the kind of the wackadoo real estate world we're living in right now with, we're going through some change, guys. Do y'all agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And and Tammi, we have a choice. We can either hide from it or we can lean into it. And I think we say there's really only one choice. And what is that?
To lean in. Let's go.
You got to lean into it. All right. So let's go. Let me pull up our slides. We've got a little slide deck for you that we're going to run. And let's go full screen with this thing. Well, we'll get it to go here. Hang on. Well, I say we will. So Tammi, we got the top three conversations to have with your sphere, with sellers, buyers, to create a spring explosion for your business. And y'all ready? Let's do this thing.
Let's do it. Let's
Let's
go.
do it. So let's go right into this, Tammi. And this, I think, you and I, we start off all of these with this conversation and the trust triangle. And we know that our goal ultimately is, well, Tammi, you say it this way, is how do I go out and instead of just being Steve the realtor, my goal should be what?
Well, the moment somebody says, "Oh my gosh, that's Steve. He's my realtor." You just
Ah,
went to a whole different level with the relationship, and it starts with that word, trust.
trust. So this whole journey is the trust triangle actually came from the Harvard Business Review. It was they were studying leaders who had really had this ability to foster trust with the people that they led. And they broke it down to say that these were the three foundational pieces of establishing trust. And of course, when Tammi and I heard this, we said, this is no different than you and I becoming the trusted advisor, as Gary has always encouraged us to be. Is these three elements work for us, and we just have to find our way to deliver on them. And so really, Tammi, I think we could say that everything you need to know about database success is kind of right here. Yes.
It is.
Yeah. So start us off with logic. So what's the logic component to this?
Well, the logic is that they trust you to know your craft, and that if they were coming to you for real estate advice, that you would actually know what it is that you're talking about. That's the logic piece. They trust your judgment. They know that they can come to you for that. That's the logic piece.
Well, then we got this point called empathy. And then, of course, we'll talk about authenticity. I experienced the real you. That empathy, I believe you care about me and my success. And of course, that's only going to happen really through the vehicle of conversations, right? We've got to be in communication with them. Tammi, I mean, can you really have them experience that without a conversation?
Not really.
Yeah. And then authenticity, I experienced the real you. So it's logic, empathy, authenticity. They experience the real you. Talk to us about authenticity, Tammi. What is that experience? How does that show up?
Well, in all honesty, even those of you that I do not know on this screen, if we were having a conversation and you were being disingenuine to you, meaning you weren't being the real authentic you, it would be obvious to me. And oftentimes what happens, Steve, especially with us, you get into a profession and you're in a quote unquote sales environment. And if we're not comfortable having the conversations that we're having and being able to bring in that empathy piece, we're not going to show up genuine to ourselves. That's really where practice comes in, right? Because it really does allow you to come across as the real you. So when you hear us, talk so often, when you go to classes or you go to something like Bold and we say practice, 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 that's where the authenticity comes from.
Well, there it is. And of course, uh, let's dive into this a little deeper. So what we're going to really talk about is really delivering on these 3 points. We're going to talk mostly about empathy and authentic you today. The logic piece might be the delivery vehicle that we really focus on in Never Ending Referrals is building a 40 to 52 touch system that demonstrates your market knowledge, your expertise, but you also get to do it in the conversations. The logic has multiple delivery points, and yet you've ultimately got to systematize that piece as well. And then, of course, you got to get skillful with the conversation. So let me go back to our screen. And as we dive in here, this whole conversation is the relationship. And when we think about the conversation as the relationship, Tammi, I often tell the story of myself and Barbara DeLamo. And I'm driving down the interstate, coming out of Austin, driving back to San Antonio where I live, and my phone goes off, and on the dashboard, it says Barbara DeLamo. And it's a 210 area code, so I know it's San Antonio. And my first thought is, who's Barbara? Who's Barbara DeLamo? I can't place the name. And yet I'm thinking I must know her because she's showing up on my display. She's in my contacts. So I don't know. By the way, don't judge me. I did maybe what you would do. Yeah, maybe you wouldn't, but this is what I did. I had to make a split decision. Am I going to take the call? And I did. I hit the button, took the call, and go, "Hey, Barb, what's going on?" Not having a clue who Barbara is. And "Hey, Barb, what's going on?" And Barbara comes on the line. And Tammi, I got to use her inflection just for effect. And she's a good Southern lady. And I go, "Well," and she goes, "Well, hi, Steve." I go, "Well, hey, Barbara, what's going on? What can I do for you?" She goes, "Well, hey, I was calling to wish you happy birthday." And I'm going, "Well, thanks, Barbara. You're a little early. My birthday's, not till the end of the month. And, it's like July 9th, guys. And my birthday's July 31st. By the way, write that down. I'd love to get a card from you. And it's July 9th. And I say, "Well, Barbara, you're a little early." She goes, I know I wanted to be the first one. Am I the first one?" I go, "Yeah, you sure are." And again, I'm still going, "Who's this lady? I don't know who this is." And she continues the conversation and she goes, "Are you still coaching Bold?" And I said, "Yeah, I sure am." And she goes, "I took the first Bold with you that y'all did in San Antonio in 2009. Love Bold. Tell me about Bold. What have you been doing with Bold?" And now at least I have context for the relationship, right? And then she said, "I know you had, there was that lady who sponsored one of our bowls. She was your girlfriend, lived in San Antonio. What was her name?" I said, "Shelly." She goes, "Yeah, you guys still together?" And I said, "We are." And she asked about Shelly. And she goes, "In fact, you even had mentioned that you originally grew up around this area and that maybe were considering a move back to San Antonio. Did you ever make the move?" I said, "Barbara, yeah, I did 2.5 years ago." And she said, Man, I missed that." And I said, "Of course, Barbara, we represented ourselves, being an agent and all." And she goes, "Well, what are you loving about San Antonio?" And we talked about San Antonio for a minute. She gave me a referral to a brunch place that was awesome. And then she said, "Well, what kind of big plans you and Shelly have coming up?" We talked about a trip to Egypt. And Tammi, the whole conversation was maybe 6 minutes. And I went from who the heck is Barbara to feeling completely connected and completely in flow with Barbara. And in 6 minutes. Now, Tammi, that's not the rest of the story.
Mm-mm.
Here's the rest of the story. As I hung up, I looked at the dashboard. And when I looked at the dashboard, I saw that it said maybe Barbara DeLamo. It didn't say Barbara DeLamo. And on an iPhone, when it says maybe, it means the person's in your correspondence. And I said, where have I been communicating with Barbara? And when I got home, I pulled up my email and I looked up Barbara. And Tammy, I had been getting an email from Barbara every 3 weeks on average for 7 years.
Mm.
For 7 years. Now, 2 weeks later, I got another email from Barbara. And what did I do with that one?
I bet you opened it.
I opened it. All right. And why did I open it, Tammy, versus maybe I don't know if I ever opened one before. What happened this time?
Because once you had the conversation, now you're going to open the email because there's a connection.
Hmm.
And I think that's, when we talk about the conversation is the relationship, that story is so relevant. And Steve, I've heard you tell that story, many times. And it's so incredibly relevant because we think that we put people on, a 36 touch, 40 touch, 52 touch, whatever it is, and that it's doing all the heavy lifting for us. And the conversation is the linchpin that actually allows all of those things to actually have meaning and importance to the people that we're sending them to. Most of the time, how many of you wake up in the morning and you swipe, delete, swipe, delete, swipe, delete, constantly just to clean up your inbox? And so we don't really open things from folks unless we have a connection with them. And that's the really important piece of what we're talking about today is how do you have conversations with your database that are value, that allow you to deepen and strengthen the relationship, not be disingenuine, and really allow that relationship to grow. And so what you just heard that Steve experienced with Barbara was a conversation framework that many of you might already know, and some of you might be hearing for the first time, and that's Ford, FORD. And Steve, you want to jump into this?
Well, yeah. I mean, so think about what the conversation that we had, Tammy. I mean, she started off with, she asked me about Bold, which was an occupation question.
Mm-hmm.
Then she said, hey, you had that girlfriend that sponsored a bowl. What was her name? And the conversation moved over to family and friends. It moved to Shelly. And
Mm-hmm.
then she said, well, what are you loving? What are you enjoying most about San Antonio? It moved into recreation. And, she said, what kind of big plans you guys have coming up? And, we talked about the trip to Egypt. And, it's funny. I hung up and I go, man, I just got forwarded. I got forwarded, and whoops, my lens cap came down. And by the way, that was a powerful demonstration. And I don't know that she intended purposefully to take me through all four parts of Ford. She didn't have to. We could have had a conversation on just a couple of points, and yet it created connection. And why is now our first conversation, Tammy, is a simple Ford conversation. And,
Yeah.
and talk about the power of that and what it can reveal.
Well, you can always have a forward conversation. Have those go-to questions in your back pocket. You go where the conversation goes. You ask follow-up questions when appropriate. You don't have to ask questions about all four. You
Mm.
just start with one and you go where the conversation goes. The key point with Ford that I'd love to point out is that those four things are the things that matter most to every single one of you. They matter
Mm.
most to me, they matter most to Steve, they matter most to all of us. And so if you'll ask questions about the things that matter most to people, it makes them feel that's part of the empathy piece is that you care about me. And so you're not going right into, hey, who do you know that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate that I could be talking to today? I mean,
Yeah.
you're literally asking them about the things that are most important. By the way, Steve, if you ask someone about occupation, reciprocity is they're going to ask you about yours. And so it's a really genuine way for the conversation to go back to that,
Mhm.
and then you can walk into that as well. And we're going to teach you how to do that today.
Yeah. So perfect. So let's keep going, and I'm going to go back to the screen, Tammy. And as we dive into this, the other thing that you've got to be prepared for right now, as we're having conversations with this crazy wackadoo real estate market that we're in, is Tammy, do we have confused consumers out there today?
Uh, Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of confused consumers. And they don't know what to do in many cases, and it's going to take conversations and sitting down and us being that trusted advisor, bring the logic, the empathy, and authenticity. And the one thing we just want you to be thinking about, because Gary said at the beginning of the shift, he said it's the agent with the right messages that match the market combined with the right MOFers that's going to win the market. Now, MOFer stands for what, Tammy?
Make offer for immediate response.
You got it right here. Make offer for immediate response. And this is my markets where I have real estate businesses. These are my possible messages I can build, and buyers get breathing room. List to sales price ratio. In one of my markets, it peaked at 117% of list price, and now it's 94% of original list price. So buyers have breathing room now. And yet we're still in one of the fastest growing regions in Central Texas in the country. One of the campaigns we ran in the first quarter, actually late fourth quarter, early first quarter, was buy the dip. We were talking about the opportunity of seasonality, concession opportunities, particularly with builders in my markets right now. First-time home buyers, less competition, more choices. The law of supply and demand for sellers, housing shortage, that we're in a stable, steady market. We've done messaging around the future of interest rates, and where are interest rates really headed? And did you still know that you could still get a 5.99% interest rate today, or a 5.75 today, and through concessions and doing interest rate buy down? So we put messages out that match the market. And what we mean by match the market, it addresses the things that have people concerned today that maybe have them sitting on the sideline. And we capture their interest. And then you're going to wrap up your message with a MOFer. And here's an example of a MOFer that's been working for our folks very effectively. They'll have a message, and then the MOFer is the call to action at the end of the message that matches the market. And it is, if you have any possible interest in buying or selling a home in the next 12 to 24 months, find out why the right time for you might be right now. Call me to schedule a no obligation strategy session. So, Tammi, just as when that comes into play, we want to be prepared to have these messages in our marketing, but they can also take place in our conversations, and especially when we're inviting a business conversation into our care calls. And we're going to talk about the care call in a moment. But Tammi, walk us through the Ford sandwich, and let's look at this little model first, and then we'll go model a care call for them.
Well, first of all, that sandwich does not look very delicious. I'm not eating flowers. Just telling you. It's pretty though. It's really pretty. All right. So a Ford sandwich is just that, right? With a sandwich has two pieces of bread and meat, or whatever your chosen insert is, hopefully not flowers, into the two pieces of bread. All right. So it just works like this. Obviously when somebody answers a phone, you've got hello. And then you go down the Ford framework, right? So you ask a Ford question. It could be, hey, I was just, I was calling you real quick to talk about something business related. However, first, how's the family? Right. And so I let them know that I'm actually calling about something business related. And yet I'm exercising empathy, right? I care about you, by starting with that Ford question. Then I might ask a follow-up question based on what they share with me. Then I could transition into, hey, I said I was calling about business, and I can transition into the purpose of my call. Maybe it's just that, people are so confused. What are you hearing about the market right now? Right. And I either educate or validate that what they share with me is correct. Then I transition back to a Ford question, because Steve, at the end of the call, they're going to remember that it felt good because I was talking about things that are important to them, right? Then I ask a follow-up question and I wrap up the call.
Yeah.
It's really as simple as that.
So if we were to take this and apply it to a care conversation, and by the way, just so you guys know, we are going to once the video is processed, you're gonna get an email with us with the recording of this session. Plus, we're gonna send you some actual conversations written out. You'll have all of that coming to you in a follow-up email. And so just be on the lookout for that. So let's model the care conversation. And here's the framework for this. And I'm going to take this down and we'll come back to it in a moment, Tammy, but let's just model this. And let's say that you're one of my clients and I'm reaching out to you, Tammy. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Tammy, Steve Schlueter over at Keller Williams. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it. And hey, I got to tell you, I've been having a lot of clients reach out to me. Then, what's going on with this real estate market? What's happening with interest rates? What's happening with the market? What's this whole legal thing that's going on? And boy, there seems to be a lot of confusion out in the real estate space right now. And thought I'd reach out to my peeps and shed some light on things. But before I get into that, give me a little update on you and Bruce. What have been your latest adventures? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Oh, yes. You know us. We're always traveling. So we are actually tomorrow, we are leaving for New York.
What's happening in New York?
We're gonna go visit family and visit the city,
Hmm. Any of the shows or anything like that?
We are probably gonna go see Wicked again. It's
Oh,
one of my
that sounds truly wicked.
Yes,
Pun
exactly.
intended. Yes. Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. Have a great time, Tammy.
Thanks.
Um, Tammy, as I said, the reason I was calling was just kind of shed some light on things about the real estate market. There's a lot of confusion out there, and just curious, what do you know or what are you hearing about the real estate market here in Lake Norman right now?
Mm. Steve, I mean, pretty much, interest rates are high and it still seems like people don't have anything to buy.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
there's no houses.
we still have really tight inventory, and the truth is, Tammy, that's probably not going to change for a long time. We've got a national supply shortage, and I'm sure you've heard the old law of supply and demand. When supply is really low and demand is high, what happens?
The prices go up.
Home values continue to go up and probably going to continue that. And then interest rates, there's been a lot of fodder that they might come down, and yet we're concerned that there's also a lot of pressure with inflation that they're actually maybe more likely to be going up or staying elevated. And yeah, it sounds like you've been watching things a little bit. Have you guys been pondering a real estate deal or something?
No, not us. We've got a nephew that, has graduated college and first time home buyer,
Oh,
so
wow.
they just kind of watching things.
Hmm. And so they've been pondering maybe a purchase themselves. Is that right?
Yes, I think if the timing is right and, I mean, at that age, it's all their house payment, Steve. If the house payment's right, they're good.
Yeah. Well, do you know if they've sat down and had just a no obligation, maybe strategy session with an agent to really understand the opportunities of the market now?
No, I don't believe they have.
Yeah.
And obviously we'd be setting them up with you.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, would you mind connecting me with by text with with your nephew? Because here's what's going on, Tammy. There's a lot of misinformation out there about maybe particularly interest rates. What are they going to do in the future? And there's this buzz that they're going to come down because it's an election year. And honestly, what we see is the government's more fearful of, particularly the Federal Reserve, more fearful of inflation than they are what your nephew or you or I pay for a mortgage. And anyway, I'd be happy to have a no obligation session with them just to have them understand kind of where things are headed. So would you connect us via text? I'd love to talk chat with them.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thanks for that. You think you could do that today? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Jump
Hey,
on.
Tammy, thank you for that. I really look forward to the opportunity to helping your nephew. By the way, what's your nephew's name? And I'd get all that.
Right.
And hey, Tammy, before I let you go, tell me what other big plans you and Bruce have for the year. So you got New York coming up. What else is on the horizon?
Well, I think this summer might be Greece is what we're
Oh
looking
my gosh.
at. Yeah.
That's exciting. So, well, and I know you guys are boat people. Would y'all do like the Mediterranean cruise approach to it, or how would y'all tackle it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go stay and sightsee and do all the things. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. place I've not been. So I'm going to pick your brain when you get back on that one. Okay.
Absolutely.
Uh, hey, Tammy, anything else I can do for you right now?
No, no, that's great.
Oh. Hey, well, thank you for connecting me with your nephew. I really look forward to meeting him and chatting. And hey, if it's okay, I'm going to stay in touch a little bit more regular right now because there is a lot of confusion out there, and I just want to make sure you guys stay informed. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, Tammy. Tell Bruce I said hi.
I will. Thanks, Steve. There you go.
So dissect that, Tammy.
Well, I mean, it's just a very natural phone call. He knows that our thing is travel. So, he let me know why he was calling first. However, he transitioned into, you know, what are we doing around travel just because he knows.
Mhm.
And then he talked to me about the real estate market, asked me what I knew, and I would have you all write down that question. Hey, what are you hearing about the real estate market right now? That is one of the most open-ended, great ways to have a conversation with someone about real estate that I could think of right now, because they are hearing things and we are up front and center. And so that's a great place to go, because then you just follow up with where they've taken that, right? And once he got back to that, we walked through that, setting things up with my nephew. Then we transitioned back over to Ford. It was just very natural, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is. I mean, and so it's just like, and this is that perfect demonstration of the Ford sandwich, right? We did a little introduction to let them know there's going to be a business component to the call.
Mhm.
We went to Ford, follow-up question. Then I said, well, as I said, the reason I was calling was, and I went right back into the purpose of the call. And then, making an offer, I made an offer of the no obligation strategy session for your nephew because it came up, and you always use your judgment whether you're going to ask for a referral or and because you were watching certain things in the market, I just it was came in a curiosity question. Wow, you guys sounds like you've been watching the market a little bit.
Great.
You thinking about a move.
Yep.
And I love when we asked that question that you said, you got that opportunity to either validate or educate. And in your case, I just validated what you said about lack of supply. In interest rates, I did kind of a validate and a educate because there's a lot of misinformation out there. It is high and it's probably going to stay high or higher or elevated. And, they might be thinking it's high, waiting for things to come down. And maybe that's not going to happen. And so we just have to be prepared to educate. And that's why we have to think about all those messages. Do we have, in our bag of tricks, a conversation for all of those things that are squirrely about our real estate market that people have confusion about, that we can educate them around? So that was our second conversation, Tammy, the care conversation framed within the Ford sandwich.
That's right.
And now let's go to our last conversation that we're going to cover with these guys today.
My
And
favorite.
Tammy, talk about this guy. What's this all about?
He's very confused, obviously. My favorite conversation. Well, you think about, when people are making a move, if they're moving, into a different town, across town, or out of state, they more than likely they've left everything behind. The like who their dry cleaner, who services their car, where to get your nails done, where to get your hair done. I mean, they've left all of those service providers behind. And we are very uniquely positioned to be more than likely the very first person that they call. And so this is another conversation that brings value to your database while also bringing value to the community in which you serve and the small business owners. And it's a great way to add quality contacts to your database. It accomplishes so much, that it's literally my favorite conversation to have. So we're gonna get the conversation to you. And yet, Steve, let's role model that one.
Yeah. So again, we call it the 5-star conversation. And so Tammy, I'm reaching out to Tammy, and Tammy, again, somebody in my database.
Mhm.
Ring ring.
Hello.
Hey, Tammy, Steve Schlueter over at Keller Williams. How are you today?
Fantastic. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking my call. And hey, I'm working on a little business project, and I thought you might be able to help me out. And so appreciate you taking my call. Before I get to that though, and then I would ask the forward question, and I would, go ahead and open with a forward question, appropriate follow-up question. So then I'm going to go back to the call. So Tammy, as I mentioned, I'm working on this little project, and Tammy, as you can imagine, as a real estate agent, here, of course, Charlotte's one of the fastest growing areas in the country, and we've got people moving here from all over the country all the time who, well, you can imagine they left all their service providers behind. Everybody that took care of all their needs is not in their life anymore, and they get here, and it's like, oh my gosh, now what? And so we're building this little directory. We call it our five-star provider directory, and that we're curating from the people we know and trust, people that we've done business with, and then we're going out to our friends and our clients. And who is it that you've done business with that's offered you just a five-star awesome experience that maybe should be in our directory? And we don't even charge them to be in our directory. We just want to help our people, Tammy, get access to resources they need when they've moved here, or even if they have lived here forever. In fact, we'll tell y'all how to access it. So Tammy, here's my question. Um, think about the last 30 days or so. Has there been anybody that serves you and Bruce that in any way that just has given you an exceptional five-star experience, maybe just blew you away? Anybody like that?
Yeah, we just had some landscaping done in our backyard, and this is such a great idea, Steve. Yeah, I mean, they did a fabulous job.
Wow. So what kind of things did you guys have done?
We had some landscaping done around our pool.
Ah, okay, fantastic. And what's the name of the company?
Three Trees Landscaping.
Three Trees Landscaping. I'd love to reach out to them. Sounds like you were really pleased with them. And what was the thing that you were most pleased that they did for you?
It was like instantly we had this beautiful backyard, and I didn't see any mess. It was all done in one day,
Wow.
and it was, I mean, it was just super easy.
Like
You
somebody
know,
snapped their fingers, huh?
hmm
Wow. Well, Tammy, do you happen to have a contact person over there? I'd love to connect with them and see how we can get them in our directory.
Yeah, and I would give him Doug's name
No,
and
so I
number.
get Doug. And I said, Tammy, when I reach out to Doug, would it be okay if I mention that you sent us his way?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Hey, thanks for that. Um, Tammy, maybe there's another introduction you can help me with. And that is one of the placeholders I have in our directory that I just haven't filled yet is CPA. And we're especially getting into tax season coming up. And my person retired 2 years ago, and I just haven't found the one yet. And do you happen to have a five-star exceptional introduction you could give us in the space of a CPA that you can make an introduction for us to?
Steve, I was gonna give you the name of ours until you said 5 star. I think that
Mm.
Bruce would probably say he's 4 star because he thinks we could make more money. So I don't think so.
No. Well, let me ask you. I mean, I know our network being what it is, Tammy, that I will come across that person pretty timely. And when I do, would you like for me to connect you with that individual?
Oh gosh, yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect. I'd be happy to make that introduction. And I don't know if it'll be a week, 2 weeks, but as soon as I make that introduction, I'll play connector and I'll bring you folks together.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Ah, thank you. Hey, Tammy, I really appreciate you helping me with this little project. Is there anything we can do for you guys right now?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
love that you're doing this.
Yeah, well, we'll tell you how to access it when it's all done. And, I'm going to reach out to Doug this afternoon. And so thank you for that introduction. And by the way, a lot of crazy things going on in the real estate market and real estate world. If there's any questions you have, that or anything, please feel free to reach out to us. And I'll stay in touch a little bit more frequently right now. Just kind of keep y'all up to speed if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. Well, tell Bruce I said hi and look forward to catching up with y'all real soon. And I would have done a little forward closing in there too. So, all right, Tammy, dissect this a little bit. Let's talk.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is my favorite conversation. If we're reaching out to our database 4 times a year, this is a conversation that you could have twice a year, and then fill some market of the moment with the other ones. This one is so good because number one, I know that Steve's a real estate agent, and he's calling, telling me that he's building this out for his friends and his clients, myself included. And so I know he's working on something that is not business related to real estate. So that in itself is a great thing. Then when he asked me about having a great experience with someone, I had. Now, sometimes, Steve, by the way, in my experience, people can't immediately think of something. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And so you might say, by the way, it doesn't have to be a service around your home. I mean, it could be something around your car, it could be something health related, it could be a business that you frequent, it could be a restaurant.
Yeah.
We're just looking to build this out. So the more you can help people, the better they are at coming up with these 5-star experiences. So I love that. And then you asked me if you could use my name. And that's a key point to that whole conversation, because now when Steve reaches out to Doug the landscaper and explains who he is, that he's not asking for Doug the landscaper to pay to be part of this, it's just a service that he provides his people and that he's doing for the community. Well, guess what happened to the relationship equity between me and my landscaper? My landscaper thinks I'm amazing because I just set him up with a real estate agent who's connected in the community and wants to help me build my business for free. So that just went up. Well, then he also asked me about a CPA, and I didn't have, a CPA. Now, Steve, what are you going to continue doing as you go through your network?
Oh, I'm going to keep looking for CPAs, and yeah, and by the way, even after I get one, Tammy, I may keep asking for CPA, because it's not just about getting the CPA. I'm also looking for people who need or desire a new CPA.
That's
And
key.
so that's big, because what may happen is I get two great CPAs and I may have 10 people wanting an introduction to a great CPA. So Tammy, what happens when I reach out to those two CPAs?
And now you have a handful of possible connections and referrals for them. So unless they're married to a real estate agent, and even if they are, guess what? You just got into like the second position in their mind, right? You can capture mind share really quickly. So we gave you access to that in the chat. We're going to make sure we honor your time since we did schedule you guys for 45 minutes. Dan, that's a great question. How do you set that up to be accessed by people in your database? Multiple ways. Personally, we have ours on a Google Sheet, because it's a live document and it has a URL attached to it. We have a QR code that is linked to that URL, and it's actually on refrigerator magnets. It's on everything. It's on our signature lines. It's everywhere. I know that, Steve, in the past, some real estate agents are like, well, I like to know when people are using it and I want them to call me. This is just about providing value, and it's a way to stay connected. The way that you can know if they're using it is, hey, when you access this, if you use someone, if you have a great experience or a not so great experience, would you let me know either way? Certainly we want to make sure that they are 5-star experiences, and we would love to know that this is of benefit to you. So just let us know and just make it easy. So, guys, if you'd like to know more about how to bring value to your database, Steve, let's talk about what Never Ending Referrals can do for you and how they can do that, because it's very, very simple.
Yeah, and we want to invite you to join our Never Ending Referrals community, and we'll, the next slide, share with you how to do that. And Megan, if you'll put the link in the chat for them to access our registration site. But Tammy and I again host Never Ending Referrals, and we come live at you 3 times a month. The 8 lessons of Never Ending Referrals begin again a week from Monday, and yet we have a bonus session. I'm sorry, take that back. April 1st. We begin again with our bonus session, and Tammy and I are going to be doing a live buyer consultation on, especially in the new market dynamics that we're in. What does that conversation need to sound like to add value to a buyer? And then the following week, I believe that's the 8th, what it is, we've got session 1 beginning again, which we go right through setting the foundation, who you're being for your database. That's really about being the authentic you.
Mhm.
Business to business strategy, which the 5-star we just went through is part of, and we go through social media strategies for working your database, client events, how we secure and make powerful impressions. Session 5 to secure the relationship. Session 6, all these conversations around being the trusted advisor. So we deliver on that logic point. The other database, geofarming, and of course we get into video and all those strategies, Tammy. And what we would say is, if you'd like to join us, you can go to the QR code here. You've got a link in the chat. Joining our community is $39 a month. It's a minimum 5-month stay. Tammy, we've got people like, I don't know, gosh,
Oh,
um, Thomas Baker, for example, has probably been with us, what, 3 years?
uh-huh.
Because we always come back and we have the market of the moment updates every quarter before you begin your next D2 cycle, to make sure that you're absolutely equipped for the conversations that the market requires right now.
Yeah.
Tammy, any last thoughts before we leave these folks? And again, we're going to send you the recording. It will be on the YouTube channel, and we'll send it along with some additional resources like the care conversation. Um, Last thoughts, Tammy?
We've made it so simple to join because this is the biggest business asset you own is your database. And the more value you can provide, all while being you and doing it in a way that feels genuine, is so incredibly important. Everything that we do, all of our sessions are recorded, and all of our past sessions and interviews we've done with amazing agents who are slaying it in different areas around the database, all of that is on a 24/7 e-learning, online portal. So even if you can't make a session, everything we do is recorded and you still get access to all of our past recordings. And there literally are hundreds of them on there. So we've made it easy. Go join today. And we will see you all on April 1st. And it's no joke, even though it's April Fool's Day,
We're
right?
not kidding around, right?
Yes,
So,
we're not kidding around. Thank you for joining us today. And we really appreciate, we know how valuable your time is. And go slay the rest of the day.
so long, guys.
See you guys. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Tammy.